IVM.
Hello, guys and girls. Welcome back to a brand new episode of The Millennial Athlete with Tanvi and Shlok, a podcast for, of, and by the millennials. I'm your host, Tanvi Lad.
And I'm your co-host, Shlok Ramchandran.
Shlok, so we had a really exciting sporty Sunday yesterday and we have a lot to chat about. Really excited to have on the show today Zenia D'Cunha with us, who in her own words has described herself as a compulsive sports tweeter in need of the edit button, a part-time fan and a full-time nerd. So I'm sure we have a lot of sporting content to chat about. Welcome, Zenia. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Tanvi. It's so great to be here. Hi, Shlok.
पहली बात सब लोग की आंखें बड़ी डाउन सी लग रही है. Everybody's been covering sport for the whole night. पहले Tanvi, I know again I just have to remind you again and again. I don't think there has to be any debate that Novak Djokovic is now the GOAT. I know तू राफा बहुत करती है, but let's just end it now. So Novak GOAT. Rafa and Federer are there. ठीक है, there. मैं बुरा नहीं बोल रहा, नहीं है लेकिन यार Novak Djokovic again beating Berrettini in 4 sets, absolutely commanding performance. Abhi I know Tanvi is a Rafa fan. What about you, Zenia? Whom are you a fan of? Please don't tell me that I'm a fan of tennis and I like all the players. Give me like a good solid answer.
So now that you've put me on the spot, I can confirm that I started tennis in the early 2000s. So Federer was really the first male tennis player I got behind. But once in the last few years I started working with tennis, I've realized that the GOAT is actually the era we have. We have 3 guys with 20 Grand Slams at this point. That hasn't happened before. That probably will not happen again. So let's just say that fan aside, GOAT is definitely the era right now.
Lagai tha mujhe. I knew it.
This is called the journalist diplomacy.
The journalist diplomacy, I knew. Yeah, I saw her article also on Scroll and I knew this was going to come with 20. Chalo, we will take that. But Zenia, let's start off with men's singles. Any surprises that Novak Djokovic winning, or did you expect somebody else to actually power through?
I think this in recent men's history, this was the most expected result. At French Open, you gave Tsitsipas a bit of a, at Australian Open, same with Medvedev, you gave them a bit of a chance. But at Wimbledon, you knew that Djokovic, who is such a great tennis player, but who also runs on motivation, with those two factors together, history and his own talent, he was probably impossible to beat. I mean, the guy faced 2 championship points 2 years back and still didn't lose. So yeah. It takes something extremely special to beat Djokovic at a Grand Slam. I think Berrettini getting the first set was great. It really kicked Novak into a gear that he doesn't always have to. And honestly, it will look 4 sets, but I think it was an extremely high quality final. And that was just Djokovic being Djokovic.
But that's the thing with Djokovic, right? I mean, he allows the opponent to, he gives them an inch, and then before they can even think of, capitalizing on it, he's up the bar, and he's this master tactician who just raises the bar, before you realize it. So does give we saw it in the Roland Garros as well. I mean, he gave Tsitsipas a bit of a chance in the first set and then mowed him down post that.
Definitely. I mean, there used to be a joke that if he likes you, he gives you the first set. But I think yesterday what I saw initially was Djokovic was a little tight in the first set, which is not something that happens very often. So maybe, yes, there was, some element of nerve somewhere because of the occasion, not so much perhaps the opponent. One thing I noticed is that since Berrettini is somebody who really uses his serve-forehand combination a lot, Djokovic, who is a master at going at the backhand, we've all seen that, he kept the pressure on, with the backhands especially, with his return position as such. So I don't know whether he really drops the first set, but he does know how to level up. for sure. It was not perhaps his best final yesterday in terms of statistics or numbers alone, but it was enough. And I really think that is a very Djokovic thing. He doesn't always have to win on his best day. He just manages to be better than the opponent.
Yeah, and I think he's mastered that. You've actually summed him up really well. That he doesn't need to be his best, but he just has to be the best on court that day. Berrettini 4-1 down in the first. I thought it would be a washout, and I just go off the TV for 20 minutes, and then I see what 7-6 Berrettini's won. But then, as we know, the world comes back to a balance, and he wins in four. But apart from that, some of the really memorable performances. One, is, I won't say a former great. He's still one of my favorite players. Andy Murray was back in action. I spoke about him last week also in a podcast. Went to round three after all of his hip struggles, and then obviously losing to the young gun from Canada, Dennis, in 3 games. What did you think of Andy Murray and his comeback on centre court?
I think Andy Murray showed the non-statistical aspect of what being one of those big four, big five player means. Winning one Grand Slam is so difficult. We've seen that as theme. Winning two is even more difficult as theme. But Andy Murray is the one guy who stood like in front of the big three and was this absolute Captain America in Endgame style ball who refused to, give up. And to see that he still has that quality. He may be world number 118 now, but that same fighting quality. This is where I stand and this is where I fight. For that to happen at Wimbledon in singles after 3 years, it was. I mean, I'm talking purely as a fan here, but to see that said how much he loves tennis. We will all be tennis fans, but Andy Murray, I think, is the number one tennis fan. He tweets during matches. He was tweeting during the French Open, so he's just wanting to be there in the mix again. His first two matches were also not really straight sets. You could see it's difficult for him. It's not easy anymore. The man with the metal hip, but he's got like steel in his spine and nerves or something. He somehow just managed to get that. I would say perhaps if the draw was a little better, if it was not Shapovalov, who knows? It's Andy Murray, he Federer. They all just know how to play on grass. They know how to play these big matches and win. I think what Murray proved most importantly is all those people who keep asking him, how long are you going to play, have absolutely no business doing that. He is a genuine great. He's a former world number one in this era, and he should keep playing as long as he wants. Even if he plays 3 rounds like this, it's so much entertainment and so much more heart than so many other players, I guess.
Yeah. The trademark running from the baseline and the lob is a trademark of Andy Murray. And obviously, I saw his documentary resurfacing last year. I mean, I was always a big Andy Murray fan also, but after watching that, the respect for Andy Murray just went on to the next level. Tanvi, now moving on to women's singles. I've got a little more to talk about men's singles also, but let's talk about women's singles. Ash Barty winning the Wimbledon second major, only the second Australian to win this. How did you think? Were you expecting Ash Barty to win?
No, I mean, we saw her withdraw from the Roland Garros with an injury, and obviously there were doubts coming into this tournament, but like she tweeted herself, miracles do happen, and all the more reason for a special occasion like the Wimbledon, coming into the tournament, probably not as the favorite to win the title, but she's had a great 2 weeks, and to see her repeat history, I think it was an incredible performance from Ash Barty. Not many people know that, she was actually a professional cricketer in 2014 when she took a break. That was a surprising fact that was thrown up, but a star-studded semis and finals. We had Tom Cruise in the box, and cameras were all on him. So, I mean, overall, I think she's had a great 2 weeks and really happy for her.
Zenia, you would like to add on that?
Yes, sorry, I was. I think she's the third Australian woman, though. I think Margaret Court. We don't usually take her name, but I think she won it in the Open era. I'd have to check. Before I talk about Bharti, this is a question I had during Murray as well, which for both of you. Sorry, putting on my journalist hat for a second. as athletes, playing with even a small injury can be so difficult. I mean, you all would obviously have the better idea. But for somebody like Murray, who's had that big surgery, or Bati, who was told, whose team did not tell her how serious her injury actually is, so that she can play Wimbledon freely. How is that mind over matter thing that really works? When you have a bit of a niggle, but you still have to play a match.
Very interestingly, when you have an injury, I mean, this is something that has just worked. You're so focused on what you have to do. You're so zoned in on the present that you actually end up playing a lot better. Because when you're not injured, there are 100 other factors that you're focused on. But when it's the injury, it's just, you're zoned in. It's all about rehab, doing everything on point, and you're zoned out. You're basically focused on everything externally that you can control to make sure that you can actually go out and compete, because that's the big question mark. Can I actually go out and play my match tomorrow? It's not what is my opponent preparing, what is she, what kind of analysis is she doing, what are her tactics. It's very little about that. It's more about, am I going to go out and actually be ready to play tomorrow? So it's a very good space mentally to be in, because you're just so focused on one point at a time. Okay, I need to make sure my body is actually staying together one point at a time. So it's a very good space to be in mentally. Physically, of course, it's mind over matter. And I think we're all conditioned to an extent where in training we've pushed ourselves to the hilt. There are days when you just don't want to train and you've actually run yourself into the ground, or the coach has really been hard on you and you hate those days. But in tough situations like this, and with the adrenaline and a big stage like the Wimbledon or something, you just pull through. I think that's what champions and athletes are made of, nerves of steel.
Yeah, go big or go home वाला हिसाब बन जाता है.
Yeah.
You say, like, especially what happened to me when I would get injured or I would be cramping, was that just be fearless and go for the lines. You pull it off, right? Worst case scenario, you're going to lose. But the good part with all of these champions is that they do not take away the opponent's credit in that victory. I've seen numerous press conferences where Nadal and Federer have said that it wasn't because of my injury that I lost today, but it was the opponent who was better than me, took it away. I think that is, giving the opponent the due credit when it is needed. I think that is what differentiates between a Nick Kyrgios and a Roger Federer or a Rafael Nadal. Even though I love Nick Kyrgios, I think he brings the X factor to the tennis world. But yes, I do believe that the go big or go home factor just comes, and some players just naturally absolutely pull it off.
That is so fascinating. Thanks, guys. I mean, I always wonder this, but I got the chance to turn the tables and ask the people who've actually been there. Talking about Bhati, I think she was always expected to win a Wimbledon because she has that game. You look at her game and you go like, oh,
Yeah.
wait, this slice, this
Yeah, yeah,
angles. How is she
yeah.
doing this? I think in 2019 when she won French Open and Simona Halep won Wimbledon, I was very confused. I'm like, what is this mixed message from the universe? It should have been the other
Other
way
way
around.
around.
How is this?
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that came as a real surprise. But it also just shows that what an athlete she is. She may have a certain skill set, which is extremely fit. She is extremely motivated. Even the Grand Slam losses that she has had are usually the two in Australia, at least in the last year, were a bit where she got a bit tight. So it really explains, I think, I wrote in my article as well, the final of Wimbledon is what Ash Barty's career has been like. A junior champion at 15, she was multiple doubles champion in her teenage years, but it didn't really, the pressure, I don't know, the tour, the grind sort of got to her. She took a break. She played cricket, which as a team sport, maybe, gave her a little bit more breathing space to play sport, but with people around her, maybe she's come back knowing that now she can do it at this level, and it was only a matter of time. To think she played the last 2 weeks like that with injury is a little hard to believe. But now that I think about it, there were so many matches where it looked like she was getting a little tight, she was getting a little. She dropped the set in her first match to Carla Suarez Navarro too. To do that, I think that was a mind over matter thing that you were talking about. Maybe she knew that, this is her chance. She's world number one. She's the favorite. This is a draw prone to many upsets. All she has to do is, keep her head and use the full range that she has. Maybe she was so zoned in that the injury didn't really affect her as much as it would have had she perhaps
Yeah.
known the extent of it.
Yeah. But Zenia, I had a question for you in terms of just the open fray in women's singles at present. I mean, we had an era where Serena and Venus were playing every Grand Slam final, and they would power their way through. We had this power play, that was very dominant, evident. And now it's different game styles. You have Ash Barty, you have Svitolina, you have young guns like Coco Gauff. It's pretty much of an open fray. And who do you think has the potential to really dominate? Is there anyone who has the potential to really dominate the next decade or so?
That's actually a very interesting question because if you say one player, I would not have an answer. If you ask me one player to dominate a surface, I would go for Naomi Osaka on hard courts any day. For grass, I would say Ash Barty. For clay, there are a lot more things. I think the one rivalry that should dominate is Barty versus Osaka because they have such different, such contrasting styles, but they have that same consistency and that same high quality of play at the big stage. If a rivalry, if not one player can dominate the next couple of years of women's tennis, it would be so exciting. Because as you said, open field, right? Anybody can win. At French Open, we had somebody who had played 5 Grand Slam main draw matches, main draws, win the title. At Wimbledon, you had like the two most likely finalists in a way. Like Pliskova has the game for grass with her serve. I would think Coco Gauff is going to do well on all surfaces based on her results so far. I think Osaka, just the genius player that she'll pick up clay and grass very easily too. So and they're also young. They're all under like 25 and under. So the next 2 3 years, once they figure a lot of other moving parts, we can have rivalries dominate. What made the Serena Venus era great was not only they played each other a lot. You had players like Hannah and
Maria Sharapova.
Sharapova to an extent, Clijsters, etc., giving this constant fight. In between when Serena was winning a lot, there were always questions about who next, and then you had somebody like a Kerb or a Azarenka giving her the fight.
Yeah.
That rivalry is what should make women's tennis special. Like with Djokovic, if he was winning everything and not coming after a Federer and Nadal, it probably would not have been as fun. But
Yeah.
that there are these 2 3 top players who just make it fun as a whole.
Yeah. That's what happened even in men's singles, right? It was Djoko trying to outdo Rafa, trying to outdo Federer, and that's just how they've dominated the last decade or so.
They just make each other better. Like, one
Yeah.
fixes his backhand, one fixes his serve, and they're like, nahi, nahi, if you win a slam, I'm coming, bitch.
देखो बॉस, मेरा तो इधर फिक्स्ड है. कोको गॉफ in the next 2 years is going to dominate women's tennis. I'm telling you, along with Naomi Osaka, they are going to be the two best players on court. Coco Gauff, we only forget, is only 17. ठीक है, बच्ची है. She is going to kill it. मतलब अभी I hope that I don't say something
not
which
jinxed her?
comes. I have not jinxed her because every time, like, that is my thing with Yannick Sinner also. Every time I hype Yannick Sinner up, Yannick Sinner is gonna do, and then I watch Yannick Sinner is lost. Damn, because I watch Yannick Sinner play and I'm like, dude, this kid is amazing. I'm like, what the hell? And then he loses to somebody whom, like, I've not even heard about. But yes, I would not like to jinx Coco Gauff, and I would still think that Yannick Sinner is a future top 5. But speaking of such talents, let's there's this guy from Poland who came from nowhere, 24-year-old Hubert Hurkacz. Semi-finals at the Wimbledon, played well against Berrettini, but beating Federer in 3 straight sets in the quarterfinals. Your perspective on how Hubert played in the Wimbledon?
So I'll be honest, okay, you keep saying that I'm diplomatic, but watching Federer lose like that was difficult. It doesn't matter whose fan you are. You know that Federer has been so transparent कि नहीं मुझे ग्रास में रिटर्न करना है, मुझे विंबलडन खेलना है. I have, he was so focused on this one goal, and to see that it end like that, it had to end. He definitely didn't have a championship run in him, but to end with a bagel, that was sad. Okay, it really made me wonder कि this is like the whole circle of life and stuff like that. But as you said, credit to Harkash. At that, it's not an easy stage to come there to play the eight-time champion, to have the entire center court against you, but to still be focused on your game and be like, no, this is how I want to do. And you'd beaten Medvedev in the previous game.
Exactly, right,
2
exactly.
days and 5 sets. So it's not like he didn't really have it. I think from he won Miami Masters this year, and he got COVID after that, and he didn't really have great results. So he was coming on back of that pressure as well. So to do well with all that pressure and just stay true to your game and not look at the factors around you is what really sort of gave him the edge. I think three first time semi-finalists at Wimbledon and off Berettini and Harkaj. Shapovalov to extent because of their games, they always had this edge on grass. They're so attacking. They're going for their shots. To go for your shots against Federer again is a whole different thing. I think Harkash is somebody who's finally now gotten over the threshold, a Masters title, a good slam result. I think we'll see great stuff from him. Sinner like stuff from him. So will you? You can stand. You can add one more name to your list of young
But
guns too.
I
सिर्फ
think
एक ही यानिक सिनर था, यानिक सिनर है और यानिक सिनर रहेगा, और कोई नहीं आएगा उसकी जगह, कोई नहीं ले सकता.
But I think Hubert should get a little coverage in Polish media. I mean, I hope he's had his share of limelight, because there have been a couple of instances where he's actually sat through a press conference after a good couple wins and not been asked a single question. So I hope he does get his share of limelight, because he has done well for himself. But yeah, like you mentioned, emotional exit for one of the three greats, Roger Federer. I mean, we saw him come in, to the tournament, not expecting to win the title, but definitely, not go down the way he did. And emotional exit for him. But one thing that I kind of noticed, it's been a trend, whether it was Bjorn Borg, whether it was Pete Sampras, they all, 7 times, 5 times, 6 times win the Wimbledon, and then their exits are a bit lackluster, or, they go down on center court like it's this graveyard. So what do you have to say about that?
quit when you're ahead. uh, to stop the count, to quote
Yeah.
Sachin Donald Trump. Jokes apart, I think it. I will connect that to Serena Williams a lot. You look at her try so hard and not be able to make cross the mark or whatever, and then you wonder why is she still playing? Why is Federer still playing? This guy is 39. He's just almost 40. He's had two knee surgeries. He should probably be going to school PTA meetings with his kids at this age. Why?
Just imagine Federer at a PTA meeting. Would be so calm, he'll just
What will that that teacher won't be able to give any feedback only against the kids?
sir आप ही teach कर लो.
Great. No, your kids are fantastic. uh, but I think the reason why he of course wanted to come at Wimbledon is for all his emotional attachment, and because he thought he had a decent run in him, which he proved to be, right. Reaching the quarterfinals is also not easy. Look at the players who fell by the wayside, who couldn't make the quarters. I would say he got lucky in the first round. He himself said that. Definitely got lucky. But so at Wimbledon, like at Hala before, there were these two versions of Federer. One is this guy who every time he makes a very touch shot on grass, it's going to the place it needs, and the other guy is who simply can't make a shot. We saw that at Hala against Auger Aliassime. The first set he looked good, and then no shots seemed to be, getting in. Same thing happened, and to break his serve 3 times in a row. As good as Harkash was, I'm sure at some place it was just Federer not being able to serve. He still hasn't said whether this is his last appearance or no. But I to really answer that, I think why it's difficult. I think for these top players to give up on that high. When they're doing so well. Sampras was 31, 32 when he quit. At 31, 32, Federer was trying to fix his backhand so he can continue 5 more years in the sport. In 2011, in fact, when Djokovic was doing really well, everybody was like, "Oh, yeah, Federer's time is up now. Newer players are coming in." But if he's in a Grand Slam quarterfinal in 2021, 10 years later, maybe he knows something about himself or the game that we just don't know.
Yep.
And let's see, let's see. I would hope he continues. Even the 5 good shots he plays sometimes are worth the time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So before we wrap up the Wimbledon,
Before we
the
wrap
start-
up this Wimbledon segment, I want to make one reference. It's killing me to not have brought up
Arre.
Rafa in this
Arre,
episode where we have someone so closely associated with tennis and like sabka ho
Chal,
gaya abhi
theek hai,
gungan. Now it's
I mean,
Rafa time.
I missed Rafa at Wimbledon. I did my hand up for that. I definitely did. Yeah.
नहीं दी बॉडी नहीं साथ दी ना बॉडी मतलब कहाँ से मतलब even if he would have made it he wouldn't have been able to like he made the smart call actually if you think of it he actually made the right decision of not coming to Wimbledon just like how Federer sometimes misses the French Open which he's missed a lot in the past few years but he made the right call actually because he wouldn't have been able to live up to his standards more than anybody else's.
But it feels weird, right, to not have one of them. Like as you said, yes, it's happened very often at the French Open, but somehow at Wimbledon, and Rafa is such a very. I love Rafa's history at Wimbledon because you
Everyone
go
loves
like
Rafa.
specifically at Wimbledon because you go like this guy 2 weeks in a Channel Slam. What can he do? And suddenly he comes and plays the greatest match at Wimbledon. Then he keeps losing in the first week for a string of years, and suddenly he comes back with back-to-back semi-final appearances against Djokovic and Nadal. So transition and all is never a problem for him. I guess he was enjoying Euro a little too much. You know, he put that photo up on social media, which was disastrous because Italy won immediately after that photo.
Same curse वाला issue है. He also has the same curse issue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You guys are athletes. You tell me, yaar, how does this work? Every time I say a tweet, somebody's going to do well, वो out हो जाता है या lose कर देता है. What is this jinx secret, yaar?
I have stopped tweeting. This is the thing which has happened to me, especially when I tweet about any of my teammates who play on the tour. No, my badminton teammates. The moment I tweet about somebody, I get a message from another athlete. I was tweeting about my former partner Arjun and Dhruv playing well in Thailand in the first game, and then Pranoy tweeted me saying that बस तूने tweet कर दिया अभी हो गया इनका काम. And they lost second and third game. And then Pranoy like अब से tweet match के बाद मेरे match में गलती से भी tweet मत करना.
We should do a social experiment to see whether this actually works. You know, Shlo, in the next few weeks, let's see who all you're tweeting about. And there'll be 2 matches you don't tweet about. So we can figure out whether this...
Don't give him so much importance.
Today also, I tweeted get Jack Grealish in, and then Jack Grealish in, and he doesn't do anything.
We'll test this theory out after the Olympics.
Yeah, and Olympics I'm not even telling anything about anybody.
Please don't. There's too much effort that's gone into 4 years. People have slogged, and with one tweet, we don't want to ruin their lives.
As Tanvi says, don't give me that much importance. इतना importance मेरी मम्मी ने भी नहीं दिया है मुझे, तो इतना importance मुझे नहीं देना चाहिए. But before we wrap up Wimbledon now, I'm going to start something new. I'm going to start off with who's your TMA athlete of player of the week at Wimbledon. Then we start off with you. Who's your player of just one athlete, men's, women's, anybody?
I think Denis Shapovalov. I was quite impressed with the way he played. I think he played brilliant tennis in the semis. Probably one of the best to push Djoko that far. So yeah, he would be my pick.
Zenia, what about you?
It can be the champions, right?
It can be the champions. Obviously, it can be the champion.
I would go for Bati because to have an expected win with all these odds against, definitely in the women's tour, yeah, you need that little bit of extra millennialness perhaps to go with the theme. I think she really did that.
Yes, I would have gone with Denis too, but I am going with the Indian angle. My athlete of the week is Samir Banerjee, the Indian origin American tennis player who won the Wimbledon junior singles. I hope that the way Ash Barty completed the full circle of winning the junior and then winning the senior. I hope Sameer Banerjee also does that in the future. So huge congratulations to Sameer. You're not going to get any hampers from us, but I hope that all of you someday come to our show if you listen to it. But yeah, that's a wrap on the Wimbledon. I think we should take a break here. On the other side of the break, since we've started talking about the Euros, we might as well finish talking about the Euros. Stay tuned, everybody. You're listening to The Millennial Athlete with Tanvi and Shlok. We'll be right back.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Would like to thank the sponsors on the network this week, Cred, Siet, and Global Victoria. Thank you so much for making this possible. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus is joined by the hilarious and extremely charming illusionist and therapist Suhani Shah. They talk about different aspects of magic like sleight of hand, mind reading, mentalism, and more. The Habit Coach completed 500 episodes, 500, and Ashton has a special message for us on the occasion. Do check that out. We had Lekini Desai, founder of the India Ethnic Company, talk to Varun Digarala about their story and the Hatke marketing idea that made them popular. On Naan Curry, South of Finland celebrated World Chocolate Day. They took us through the origins, history, economics of chocolate, and shared their memories. On Tere Mere Raste, Keshav Chaturvedi shares an interesting story from Leh. Check out an updated version of the Traveling Professor's Diary. It's now rechristened as Smarter with Sid. Same old brain fuel with new stories and insights. This time, listening to know why you should keep things simple. And finally, check out Global Victoria Tech Talks. This one is in partnership with Global Victoria, the trade arm of the Government of Victoria and Australia. The edtech and gaming industries are booming in Victoria, Australia, and this series is meant to showcase that. And with that, let's get you back to your show.
Welcome back. You're listening to The Millennial Athlete with Tanvi and Shlok. We still have a cool correspondent Zenia with us on today's episode as we discussed a lot about Wimbledon. But let's talk about the Euros now. It's not going home. It's already gone Rome. Again, I didn't jinx it actually till last week when we recorded. I said actually that Germany was going to beat England, and then Germany lost. And then today when I wanted England to win, England lost. So I need to change my favorites from now. Zenia, who were your
Stop,
favorites?
why would you want England to win?
Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, the new. I mean, you don't see. I mean, such footballers from England in the past, right? Like amazing, fast feet, can change, games. And it's not like the Lampard, Gerrard era of like they're not having any chemistry. This England team actually had chemistry. If you look at the penalty shootout heartbreak today, as soon as Saka missed his penalty, all of the players ran straight to Saka. They understood at 18-year-old in front of the Wembley stand where all the English fans were there. He missed the crucial penalty, and everybody went and like all the like the pros, Harry Kane, Jordan Henderson, Harry Maguire, they wrapped him around him and protected him. So that's why I wanted England to win, also because I watch a lot of EPL and I'm a Chelsea fan. But I'm happy for Jorginho because Jorginho won. J5 has done the double, and I just hate it when a lot of people don't actually respect Jorginho enough because I absolutely love him at Chelsea. But Zenia, who were your favorites to go into and your personal favorite? Forget favorites, personal favorite.
Like footballs, I'm very non-objective. It's okay because I confess I didn't watch too much of the Euro because of Wimbledon and women's cricket. And since I don't cover football very regularly, I can very shamelessly say I was completely supporting Spain with no objectivity, no journalistic non-bias here. Not so Spain, as what you said, Spain are sort of a reverse England as for what you said. This team currently doesn't have the kind of chemistry that the previous teams did. In the final, I would have always given Italy a shout out because apart from the fact that England haven't won in a long time and they're at home, Italy somehow have this little
extra.
Yeah, this X factor to them. And I think considering the whole 2018 World Cup heartbreak, this was a lovely full circle moment for Italy.
Yeah.
Although I personally do not like penalty shootout deciding games. I don't know. It just feels like a tie break at 12-12 in Wimbledon final going back. But yeah, Not a big fan of the penalty shootout.
Tanvi, who were your favorites? I think we spoke about it, but who were your favorites?
We spoke about it. I told you I watch football only for one player. वो खत्म हो गया.
अरे
फिर
यार
उसके बाद I
तुम्हारा
don't.
CR7
There was
तू
too
और तुम्हारा
much
राफा.
women's cricket Wimbledon going on. So फिर क्रिस्टियानो रोनाल्डो नहीं है तो मैं फुटबॉल नहीं देखूंगी.
क्या मतलब मैं I तो wanted Belgium to win. For that golden generation of footballers they had, I wanted at least one title to them. बताओ मतलब केविन डे ब्रुयना, थिबा कर्टोआ, रोमेलो लुकाकू, कोई कुछ नहीं कर पाया इस बार.
आएगा उनका टाइम. अभी if Messi can win an international title at 34, इनका golden generation will get a chance.
Yeah. But yes, we're talking about Copa America. What a story for Emi Martinez. Till 2 seasons back, was the backup goalkeeper for Arsenal. Arsenal out of all teams. I mean, why Arsenal? And then decides to move away from Arsenal. The best thing he did, goes to Aston Villa, becomes the first choice keeper at Argentina, and now is a Copa America champion, and some of the top clubs want him as their number one keeper now. So, miracles do happen true, and I'm so glad that I didn't tweet anything about Emi Martinez. Otherwise, Emi Martinez ke saath bhi ye nahi hota. So, I mean, yeah, what a great week of sporting action all around the world. Copa America, Euros, Wimbledon. Obviously, we have the India versus England T20 series also going on. India coming back to win the second one thanks to Deepti Sharma's all-round masterclass. You've been covering the Indian women's cricket also as well. What have been your takeaways from the India tour so far, apart from Sneh Rana, because we've spoken about a lot about Sneh Rana anyways?
I'm so glad you asked me this. I was waiting for a chance to bring this up somehow. I think one of the best things that will come out from this tour, apart from legit match practice, which the team hasn't been getting during the COVID pandemic, is this idea that you can't bank on your few top players. This is me reading ahead a little into the future, but with Sneh Rana, with Deepti, with Tanya, with these, you expect the big guns to fire usually, but for the players under slightly less spotlight to come together and fire and win matches. Harleen Deol's catch, it was one moment. People would not have normally been talking about her because she just plays in the T20 team largely, and her batting hasn't really caught fire at the international level. But these small moments in England, with the full force of the media, English media too, they've been covering the team a lot. It's going to be a very important tour, win or lose. Now, the series is alive, which is fantastic. I did not think we'd be going into the last match with the series in the line. It's going to say कि नहीं, you don't always need your top people to fire. You can, collective small moments build that collective team, and that'll be a great lesson for this team, because they're just like, all of them are very individually talented, even if they don't have the best of match practices so far. I think the future tours to Australia and New Zealand should be super fun based on their experiences here.
Team chemistry, right? This team has chemistry. Out of everything, what I see is that this team has got chemistry.
And we see a different youngster actually shine at every event. We're seeing Shefali Verma, we're seeing each one, they're coming into their own at some point without the match practice, like you mentioned, without really grinding it out in domestic cricket. I think they're all rising to the occasion, which is lovely to see.
Boss, Shefali Verma to is
on
next
fire.
level. Shefali Verma is just, she's like, I wouldn't call her like the Virendra Sehwag of the women's cricket team, because I think again they are like two different players, but she doesn't care most of the time. Like, she sees the ball, she hits it. She is the perfect example of how to keep things as simple as possible, which is somehow, and we've played sport for the longest time and we know how difficult it is to do the simplest things, right? When the coach asks us to do just simple and you overcomplicate it by doing this and that, but all you need is that watch the ball, take out your front foot and just whack it away. And that's what Shefali Verma does every time. And it just feels that her bat has a spring. Remember back in 2003 World Cup where we thought that Ricky Ponting's bat had a spring? This was a big rumor. I thought it was true. That's why he was hitting the ball so well. Now I think that Shefali Verma's bat has a spring now. Because every time she times the ball, it just sounds so well. I mean, only bowler I think that is troubling her is Sophie Eccleston a bit, and maybe Catherine Brunt. But apart from that, Shefali Verma is going to, not jinxing it again, is going to dominate the women's batting for a very long time. I just hope that she adds some bowling also to her game, become like a good off spinner or a leg spinner to like finish off, round it off, like become an all rounder also.
You have a lot of expectation, and to think she's 17 and she comes from a structure where she hasn't even played red ball cricket before, and then she won
Yeah,
a test
yeah.
match with double century. It is just such raw natural talent. I mean, that's fantastic.
True, I agree. On that, again, your TMA so far, your player from the tour of England, your best player from the tour of England.
Shafali Verma, for the
Yeah.
most obvious reasons, is because first time in England, first time playing a test match, first time playing a one-day international match. I mean, she was actually not selected for the South Africa series for whatever reason. I can't imagine why. But the idea that she can't play longer innings and then she comes and smashes your stereotypes. Ki, bhai, if I play T20, I can also play test. I can also play ODIs. Just give me the chance. Shafali Verma. And I don't know whether she's a millennial or 17-year-old millennial.
She's
Yeah,
making us look
pretty
old,
much.
man.
She's making us look old.
Yeah, right. But yes, Shafali Verma. For smashing the ball,
She's
for smashing any ideas about her attention span, for smashing any ideas that women's cricket is not watchable or marketable.
True. Tanvi, tu bhi Shefali Verma?
absolutely. I second Shefali Verma because she's personifying, like she said, like Zenia mentioned, personifying the term millennial. Absolutely fearless, going out and whacking the ball, proving that women's cricket is right up there and watchable and needs the attention that it hasn't been really getting. So definitely, Shefali Verma is my pick.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Sneha because you've been talking about Shefali Verma, because I think what she's done coming into this women's team has added a little more balance to the team. They need, they had Deepti Sharma, but Deepti Sharma is more of a grafter of an innings and not somebody who could hit the ball. But with Sneha Rana, you get somebody who can bowl in, some good overs. She's a good off spinner. She comes in. She's a better hitter than Deepti Sharma. So I think, Sneha Rana has cemented her spot as the second all-rounder in that side. Tanvi, we won't talk about your favorite player at the Euros because you would say irrespective Cristiano Ronaldo, what who cares? But I'll ask Zenia, who was your favorite or your top player of the Euros?
I don't know if I'm saying this right, but Donnarumma, the Italian goalkeeper.
Goalkeeper?
Hope I'm saying
Yeah.
this right now. I
Yeah.
just type and tweet now. I have to say it out loud.
Donnarumma. Yeah. You got that
Yeah.
right.
For so long, you know that he was going to be the guy to succeed Buffon in the Italy goal, and he's so young, and to do that at the highest level, the pressure, amazing. He and Martinez have actually won the Copa and Euro, right? It was the back of the net. It wasn't the front of the team that actually won those two titles.
Yeah, my pick is the defensive partnership of Chiellini and Bonucci, because I heard in commentary that they play for Juventus together, and they were not content with that and playing for Italy. They are also going on a holiday together with their families after 2 days. So that just shows the bond of the centre backs, that सब साथ में, मतलब ऐसे, मतलब जय वीरू की दोस्ती है between Bonucci and Chiellini, and Chiellini he doesn't age.
Yeah.
He's giving everybody nightmares. He's 36, but he's still top of the game. I just saw a meme of him holding Saka back, saying that "Tu kidhar ja raha hai," which was so funny. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, the
such
t-shirt pulling.
yeah, the t-shirt pulling. But yeah, such a great week, and I think that's a nice way to end today's episode. Tanvi, would you like to add anything more to that, or would you like to wrap up
No,
today's
I
episode?
think it's a wrap, but I'm pretty excited because probably next week, the same time, we would have, the hashtag Tokyo 2020, now hashtag to Tokyo 2021 actually underway. Despite Japan being in a state of emergency, I really hope that this, mega sporting event, the pinnacle of world sport, actually goes ahead and we get to see some sporting action because we've all been waiting for it. We've all, athletes have really put in sweat, blood, toil for the past 4 years, and to see an event like the Olympics actually being pushed by a year, and is it happening, is it not happening, so much lack of clarity to actually plan for a mega event like that. So I'm really looking forward to a lot of sporting action. Of course, the badminton draw is out, and all eyes on PV Sindhu, Sai Praneeth, Chirag and Sathwik as they play their maiden Olympics. So, the draws are out, everyone's predictions are all over the place, and I'm really excited, with the Olympics coming up.
Yep. Starting next week, we at the Millennial Athlete will be doing the Olympic special and hopefully try to fit in 2 episodes a week because there's going to be so much content. We are going to start off next week by dissecting the badminton draw because we are badminton players and we are wannabe pundits also. So we will try to dissect the draw and we'll try to see who will reach whom in the knockout round, and hopefully I won't jinx anybody. So stay tuned, everybody. Next week, we are going to start off with the Olympic special of the Millennial Athlete with Tanvi and Shlok. Thank you so much, Zenia, for coming on our podcast. I know you had like an extremely long night and, we woke you up very early in the morning. So thank you so much. We appreciate you coming to our podcast very early in the morning. And also, we hope that during the Olympic special that you will also find some time to come once again on our show because this was a really insightful conversation, and I hope that our listeners would actually enjoy it.
Thank you so much, Shlok and Tanvi. This was a blast. This was definitely worth not sleeping for. And I absolutely love the podcast, and I can't wait to hear what you all have to say about badminton as the inside experts on this.
One last question to you, Zenia. Have you actually watched the Wimbledon live since you own the T-shirt?
No, I haven't. I haven't actually been able to watch any Grand Slam live. That's part of the bucket list.
Okay.
But I went for the Lever Cup in 2019, and that's when I went to Wimbledon and got the T-shirt and got the photo just for sentimental reasons. Hopefully, sometime in the future, I will be there for professional reasons too.
Perfect.
I love how Zenia puts the strawberry at the end of every Wimbledon hashtag that she tweets about. I mean, the strawberries and cream are cannot be missed.
I went there during later in the year, so I didn't really get to have that. But it was just so nice to be there. It feels a bit like pilgrimage, I go to all these sporting arenas just to be able to feel. Where is this part of the episode?
Yeah, this is part of the episode.
Okay,
Everything is part of the episode. We are
it's so fantastic to be able to experience sport even when there is no live sport happening at all.
Yeah.
You still feel the rush.
I go to all empty stadiums. Hopefully this pandemic and travel restrictions will be over soon and we can all be watching sport live again.
Amen to that.
All right. So with that, it's a wrap. If you like this podcast, do check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to them on the IVM Podcast app or on ivmpodcast.com. You can follow Shlok and me, Tanvi, on @the Millennial Athlete on Instagram, or you can write to me on tanvilad93 on Instagram and Twitter. Shlok, where can we find you?
Everybody can find me on Twitter and Instagram with the handle @SHLOKH95.
And Zenia, where can we find you?
Not on Instagram anymore. On Twitter, I am my name, Zenia D'Cunha, my name, my byline. And I will tweet too much about sport, as Tanvi said at the start, so be warned.
Until then, ciao. We shall be back very soon with the Olympic special of the Millennial Athlete with Tanvi and Shlok. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Namaskar, dear friends. My name is Ashish Vidyarthi. Life, as you know, is a journey. And you and I, travelers, how can we celebrate this travel? I have a podcast for you, Begin the Journey. I share stories and moments from my life. Do tune in every Monday and Thursday to listen to my podcast on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Cheers.
We live in an age of disruption, of immense change in every aspect of work, life, and business. But is the old way of doing things truly dead? And are we ever going to stop saying the new normal? Join me, Varun Dugirala, on Advertising is Dead every Tuesday as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, creators, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond to dig a little deeper into how we got here, what we're doing now, and where we're headed. You can catch all the episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from.